For your visual art design project for Unit 5, you will be taking your hand-drawn map and creating it into a digital drawing. We're going to use the program Pixlr. You can see the website for it here. I will also have a link to this in Schoology. Pixlr is a free version of something similar to Photoshop. We're using it because, again, it's free, also because it is web-based, and because we can use it and work in layers, which you will need to be able to do. There are two options on the Pixlr website of which version you do. You can use Pixlr E or Pixlr X. Personally, I prefer Pixlr E. It's a little bit more all-inclusive. So I'll go ahead and show you both of them though. So I'm going to open that in a new tab. Open that. So first I'm going to show you X. And if we just go to create new and do full HD. Okay. So this is Pixlr X. All of your links and items for things, all of your tools are located over here on the left. The thing that I find mildly annoying about this version personally is that you have to click into it and all of your adjustments are here and you have to close out of that constantly. You're welcome to use that if you prefer. The other thing is you cannot rename layers. You can add layers, but you cannot label them. So sometimes labeling is useful so you know which layer you're working on. So my personal preference is Pixlr E. You can see I've got a few variations going, but I'll just go ahead and show you. To open a new document, you don't want to go to create new, so you should have a photograph of your hand-drawn map on your computer. You'll go over here to open image. Then you will select your image from wherever it is located on your desktop, and it will open in a document to the correct size already for you. Now before you do anything to this, the very first thing is you need to add a layer. So I'm going to come over here, click the plus sign, and I'm going to click an empty layer. So that layer is now sitting on top of this. So over here, if I took that, I can take it away. Removing this layer doesn't do much yet. So what this does when, I'll show you in progress one. So when I actually have my map in progress, what that does is it allows me to, so I can remove the background layer. What I've done is I'm drawing things out in layers. So I started with the landmass, but since that landmass blocks my entire drawing, I can go in and make it invisible to work on, say, the mountains or the buildings. And eventually what I'll do is I'll stack all of those things back together and delete the background for my final image. The other thing you can do is you can rearrange your layers by, there's a way to do this. You should be able to drag and drop. There we go. If you click on it, click and hold. So now my mountains are above those buildings, which obviously I don't want. So I'm going to bring my buildings back on top of the mountains. Or if I put my landmass on top of the mountain disappears. It's still there. It's just hidden by the landmass. So you can rearrange your layers to put them in the correct order later if you need to. So back to this drawing, I'll show you how we started. So pick something to work on. If you want to focus on the roads first, if you want to focus on the overall shapes you have, if you want to focus on the trees, whatever it is that you would like to do or design first, that is entirely up to you. Whatever it is, you'll label it here by right-clicking, and then you can enter a new layer name. I might just say, I'm going to do buildings, why not? Personally, I started with the landmass first, but again, you're welcome to jump in however you want. You have a whole range of tools over here. So this is your selecting if you're needing to crop anything. You won't use most of these. I guess that's your crop, but that's just slide selecting. The big ones you're going to need are either the pen or the drawing tool. And this is where it sometimes is useful to have, I'm going to open new image, and I'm just going to do a big one here. I'm going to create, so this, I have two tabs up here now, and I'm going to use this kind of as my sandbox, my play space. So I'm going to go ahead and fill this with some white so I can see what's happening. And I'm just going to switch the colors here. And so I could test out the pen and see what are the different marks it makes. It's pretty small right now, so you're not going to see much. But what happens with that? Why is it called sketchy? What happens if it's flat furry or whatever? What if I use the crayon? What sort of mark does that make? So you can use like a play space to kind of figure out what the different sizes, brush marks, what happens with if you're in a brush. Oh, I didn't finish talking about why this is Pixlr E. You have all these options. So like you have the tool, but then all of your options for adjustments are always visible. And you can obviously label your layers. So I guess those are kind of the big things as to why I prefer this. Personally, I've been using the brush a lot. And you can come up here and you can select the size. If you can't get it quite, if you're like, I keep sliding past the pixel number I want, just type in what you want. You can change how soft or hard the edge is. So it can be a very crisp line. It can be a very soft, blurry line. Really doesn't matter. It's up to you. And I'm just going to click off that. So when you go to actually trace around your item, you're going to have to click and drag. It's a little challenging on the trackpad, but very feasible. Sometimes it works better to use two hands. So I'll often click with my left hand and then drag and draw with my right. The other thing I recommend is pausing every once in a while. Continuous lines are a problem. If you need to go back and, like if I get all the way over here and I'm like, I've made a mistake. You can obviously go to edit undo, or you can use, like you can see here, Control Z is your quick command to remove, but oh no, I removed stuff that I didn't need to. So remembering to like unclick, so let go of your cursor regularly is beneficial. So you can get as detailed or as simplistic with this as you want. The most basic form after you have traced outlines of things is to just do a fill with your object, and you can pick your color. So I like to keep my pen color here and then just switch it so I don't keep having to find that color. I can come here and you can select whatever hue you want and whatever tint or shade, and then you just click to fill. Of course you can, if you're wanting some shaded effects, you can include those. I'm going to take my brush tool here. Maybe go a little bigger and a little softer. So you're welcome to play with any sorts of effects that you want. This doesn't have quite the range as some programs do, but you can still get a little bit of detail. Other reason we went with this, so for the visual art design class, they're using Gravitz Designer, which is excellent as a Illustrator program, but it has a pretty steep learning curve. It takes a little bit of getting used to, and it's kind of a style that not many of us are used to working in. It's not kind of that instant pick it up and run with it type program. I also like the smudge tool, the blur or smudge, just as a note. So because we're running in kind of short units here, that's why we elected to use Pixlr for our unit for this class. So as you can see, then I could keep going. I can mark things out. The one thing I would comment on is always make sure, so I'm going to come back to the one I've been working in, make sure you're drawing in the right layer. I can't tell you how many times I've planned to work on the buildings, I've deleted my landmass, and then my selector is still on background, and I start drawing on my background, and then I have to hit Control Z a whole bunch to get rid of it so that I can work into. So make sure you have selected the correct layer that you actually want to work in. Otherwise, you're going to run into some problems later. So, you can, of course, do other things. If you need to zoom in and out, easiest way I've found is over here. If you're using Pixlr E, you can zoom in. And if you click here and drag, you can glide around. So I could zoom in really far. And that little red box tells you where in your map you are. And then, of course, I can zoom back out as well. Some other tools. The eyedropper tool is useful if you need to match a particular color. You can color match that. You can also do that from in this. If you have the color picker open, you can just click here and it'll automatically select the color that you click on. You can use shapes and things if you need to. I'm not going to say, and all of your options for that would be up here. I'm not going to say don't do that. It's totally a valid way to create things. And there's a few different other tools, but that's pretty much the main things that you'll need. You can play with some of the different like pen techniques. This was some of those like wispier drawing ones. This was the crayon to create that texture. You don't need to include details like that, but you are more than welcome to. So, and the last thing I want to talk about is when you go to save. So as you can see, it saves locally to my computer. So when I go to, like when I first got into Pixlr, and went here, it already had all the drawing variations that I've started. Minus in this case the one that I haven't saved yet. So it's really easy to re-access things, but you do need to go up here to File, and you'll hit Save. When you go to save it as a PXD. That saves it as a Pixlr specific file, and you'll hit Download. And what that does is that saves it in a format that will keep your layers open. So this is better than some of the other programs that I found that are web-based, because other ones will compress these layers when you save it. This will keep all of those layers open so that when you open it back up, you still have access to every single layer, so you do not have to try and get all of it done in one go.